Hello, welcome to Hotline.
Well, what a morning it has been on top of a massive news week in Jamaica. Not all news for good or right reasons, but news nonetheless. In the last half an hour or so, I've certainly had to push my original script aside and go with the flow because of what is coming in front of us. There's been a major development. The Minister of National Security has issued a press release for immediate release dated today, Thursday, 2nd May 2019, in which he has announced that Mobile Reserve, the unit to which these 3 alleged rogue policemen were or are attached, those 3 policemen who were allegedly involved in a shooting incident in Chedwin Park Sunday morning, that unit, headed by Senior Superintendent of Police Terence Bent, we are told 1, Mobile Reserve is going to be disbanded. 2, Senior Superintendent of Police Terence Bent is being sent on leave to facilitate the investigations. All of these are proper and in order, and in fact they were calls that I intended to make this morning at 10 o'clock, and I've only been first by the release from the Ministry of National Security. So I'll read the release for you in full, because on top of this we know that there are still questions, and rightly so, as to whether the entire Jamaica Constabulary Force can and whether it should continue in its current form, or whether, in light of all that we know about the alleged bad cops in the force and the reputational harm that is done to the force by actions of some, however few they might be, if it's now beyond repair, and whether we need to stop it, start it over by carefully vetting every single member, polygraphing them before they are allowed entry into the Jamaica Constabulary Service, and give the people a service of which we can be proud. That is the question that we have to face right now. And this piecemeal approach that is happening because of incidents, particularly the one on Sunday morning, which this one has caused us again to question the integrity of members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the overall management structure of the force. But here's a full release from the Minister of National Security. So Minister Chang is today announcing the beginning of a major reformation of the JCF. The reforms will result in changes in several areas of the JCF. In a quote attributed to Dr. Chang, the minister, the Commissioner of Police, Major General Anthony Anderson, has advised the government that in short order, major changes will come in both the management and oversight of the police force, as well as changes of entities within the force. The Security Minister added that the Commissioner of Police has advised that Senior Superintendent of Police Terence Bent is being sent on leave to facilitate investigations at the Mobile Reserve. Additionally, Assistant Commissioner of Police ACP Warren Clark is to oversee the winding up of the Mobile Reserve and develop the framework for a new, vetted, specialized operations organization, properly trained and equipped to respond to current and future threats. Dr. Chang said the Commissioner has also updated the government on the strategic plan for the JCF. The government has given the commitment of budgetary and legislative support. These plans will be executed this year. And the release continues that Commissioner Anderson will join Minister Chang next week at a press conference to provide further details to the nation on the actions to come. According to Dr. Chang, we are of the view that crime is the greatest threat to the development of our society. We all want to see the force strategically purposed to deal with the current challenges effectively, or we will not be able to achieve national objectives. Dr. Chang also added, we ask members of the public to support the process of change and reform. We also ask members of the JCF to embrace this evolution and transformation, as it will redound to their benefit, that of their family and the nation. This very important release just coming to hand in the last half an hour. We must not, however, forget the immediate event or incident that has led to this announcement. Very piecemeal, will not cut it in the grand scheme of things, but it is a start. And I wonder as well, Minister Chang, why are you waiting until next week for a press conference? This move is so massive now, and the overall move that should be made is so massive that it should have been in your contemplation long time. There are a number of daylight hours left in today, and you have 8 hours tomorrow. This press conference should have been held tomorrow to inform, update, properly advise the people of Jamaica about how you are going to do what you intend to do. And this idea of having a new vetted specialized operations organization. We had Kingfish, exactly like this. What on earth happened to Kingfish? Kingfish turned Sprat. Long time, done and gone. Now we have mobile reserve. Number of answers needed as to how 3 police, who one newspaper said they were on suspension. Another newspaper said at least 2 of them were removed from frontline duty, but not on suspension. I don't understand how it is that a policeman can be on a murder charge and he is only removed from frontline duty and not suspended. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And even if the person is removed from frontline duty and not suspended, how is it that the divisional commander, how is it that the head of mobile reserve in this instance is going to keep a check on this or these individuals? We still need answers, and they should have come by now, approximately 4 or 5 days after this incident. How and why? Where did these 5 guns that were found in the vehicle, allegedly driven by one and being driven in by 2 other police, how did 5 guns come to be in the car? Have we yet traced the antecedents of these weapons? Are these service weapons? And if so, why would these off-duty cops be given 5 service weapons? If they're not service weapons, where are they from? Were they used in any crime scenes before, according to your records? 5 license plate. Why? Where did they get these license plate from? To whom are these license plate addressed? Do they have any owners? Logbook. What is the purpose of a logbook? Why would the logbook be in a car driven by these policemen attached to mobile reserve? And blue flashing lights? Who own these lights? Are they property of mobile reserve? And if so, what are the circumstances under which any policeman would be given blue flashing lights? And then, in a dramatic turn yesterday, and I hope my technical operator has this, in a dramatic turn yesterday, firstly, you would have heard the attorney representing one of the 3 policemen And this policeman is said to be on the run. He having, we're told, escaped. We're not sure if he escaped from the scene or escaped from the hospital. But his attorney, Val Renita Robertson, yesterday appealed for him to turn himself into the police, and that is the duty of counsel. He called the newsroom of RJR and TVJ yesterday. He wanted us to hear his piece. When we come back from this break, you are going to hear what Corporal Kirk Fraser told a journalist in the RJR newsroom, a call unsolicited by the newsroom and made by one Corporal Kirk Fraser. Stay with us.
Emily's Views brought to you by Water, Land of Good and Water, and BPM Financial, taking you higher.
Well, as I said to you, I haven't heard this interview as yet myself, and sometimes I like to read the interview without any prompting. We carried this 7 this morning in the newscast on RGR, and we're going to hear now from Corporal Kirk Fraser, who made the call to the news center, wanting to speak and saying the story as we have been told so far is not correct. Here's that interview.
You're one of the cops who people are now calling a rogue cop. We believe that, but what really happened that Saturday night?
Well, on that Saturday night, myself, along with Rowan Williams and Ramon Scott, all three of us are police officers, work at Mobile Reserve. We are also friends. We are also very, very good friends. So we know about that party that was keeping at Shedlin Park. Yeah, so we acquire armbands. It was armbands to go into that. So we acquire and plan and meet up there. Me and Rowan Williams went there, and Scott, Ramon Scott, meet us there.
These are the names you're calling on the persons who you went with.
Yeah, the person.
These are police officers.
Police officers.
Good.
So we went at the party, but while we link up there and we went to the venue, to the entrance of the venue, we realized that they were checking for firearms. So we knowing that we have other government properties in, we also, Rowan Williams, also, he was the person that the unmarked service vehicle that he drove over there, he was the person that's responsible for it. So
this is the person who died?
Yeah. So he's actually Corporal Rowan Williams, right? Yeah. So he had an issue. Also, the three of us that because we had police radios and other police government equipment in the vehicle. So we didn't want to leave that vehicle and go inside. So we were there contemplating if we should still go in or maybe one or two persons go in and there with like intervals. After while going back out to the vehicle, we heard, I heard explosion, sound like gunshot, and I saw two men making that way as I easily retreat, running towards the roadway, where I thought I think it was a brown one of the Tida looking Nissan car. Yeah, and the men jump in the car and the car sped away. We, knowing we are police officers and we are active police officers, and it's our duty. We heard the shots and saw the men. I actually saw the men with firearms. Yeah, run. We went in the vehicle, Corporal Williams, he was the driver. I was the person in the front passenger seat, and Corporal Ramon Scott was behind. in the back seat. We pursued the vehicle. The vehicle turned when we reached at the intersection. So we were traveling towards Spanish Town. When we reached at the intersection, I think it was Featherbed Lane and Olava Road, where those two gas stations. We turned left, pursued the vehicle. The vehicle sped out of our side. We were traveling on that road. The vehicle was the vehicle get out of our side basically.
We're talking about the TIDA now, right?
TIDA, this is a TIDA.
Good.
When we reach at the intersection now, the intersection of that's a Featherbed Lane and John's Road.
Mm-hmm.
Where there is a 4-road intersection there. Yeah, the light was on red. So we wanted to see where this vehicle, so we went on the right hand side of the road. The stoplight was on red, other vehicles were there. And we take a quick look at the three-way, left, right, and in front to see. We decided to go straight. While we decided to go straight, I was looking all around here. When I looked behind, I saw this white Honda Civic. It was one of these new Honda Civic. And to my recollection, this Honda Civic was also at the venue. Yeah, at the venue. So I saw it come, why this car come to my attention so far. It did the same thing that we did. It come at the intersection and come on the right hand side of the road. And cross the road as fast as us. And by that vehicle cross the road, that vehicle came up. I was watching why this vehicle was traveling so fast. Then I just hear a lot of loud explosion and feel a lot of splinter flying all over in my back and face. And actually feel the vehicle was getting hit from, and from my experience, it was gunshot. And we were saying, what is this? So in a quick reaction by saying, what is this? I decided to start to, we realized the vehicle was still pursuing upon us and still gunshot was coming from that vehicle. I was seeing the flashes and hearing the loud explosion and actually feeling our vehicle getting the hit from the bullets. So I start returning. I put my head outside the vehicle and start to fire on that vehicle. Also, the Corporal Scott in the back seat was doing the same. The gunshot now becomes so intense that all the back glass, I think, of our vehicle was shut out by now. So Corporal Scott began now to fire through the back of. Also, I did not have to put my head outside again. So Corporal Scott went over more to it would be to the right, my left, and started to pump gunfire on that vehicle. I also doing the same, and Corporal Williams was there driving too, and I thought he was there. I heard loud explosion coming from his side, so he was also fire. That vehicle continued. Whenever we were going, we accelerate. That vehicle accelerate even faster upon, and whenever we put gunfire, like it would hold back. And then the vehicle was moving so fast. One of the time I was telling Corporal Williams, let me put the vehicle in second. So I put the vehicle in second, and he said the vehicle was not moving as fast enough. And this vehicle was up, and we were putting a lot of gunfire, because actually the weapon that we were firing, our weapon fired an automatic. So our weapon, we thought the weapon would scare them off this or repel the attack, but these men, I don't know if it was rifles they were, but these men were repelling our attack more than how we were repelling their attack. When we reach at the intersection now with...
For me? Just hold that for me. This is the Hotline and Hotline interface. Never before heard audio. An interview being done by Kirk Wright from the newsroom. Massive development. An account by a cop who is on the run, Corporal Kirk Fraser. It's so important. I want us to hear the interview in full. We're going to take a break. I have in studio with me the Commissioner of Indicom, Terrence Williams. They've been investigating, and it's a good time as well to see if anything that is being told by this corporal is true. We're going to take a break. I have in studio with me the Commissioner of Indicom, Terrence Williams. They've been investigating, and it's a good time as well to see if anything that is being told by this corporal is if it accords with his investigation so far. Happy to have you on Hotline and Hotline Interface, Terrence Williams. Moving target. Let's take a break. When we come back, more. Thank you. We're back with you on Hotline and Hotline Interface. Developments all around. We've had news that mobile reserve is to be disbanded. And also that Senior Superintendent of Police, Terrence Bent, who heads mobile reserve, is being sent on leave to facilitate this probe. And this probe is about this gangster-like shooting that took place in Chedwin Park. 3 men are dead as a result of that entire ordeal. I'm joined in studio by Commissioner of Indicom, Terrence Williams. Terrence Williams, welcome, and thank you for your patience with us this morning as we go through the moving parts. Just before we go back to that interview with Corporal Kirk Fraser, who is on the run, we are told, by the police. You heard what he said before in the extract. Does anything at all coming from the interview accord with any facts that you have uncovered in your investigation so far?
Well, of course, broadly, good morning to you and to your listeners and viewers. Broadly, there is, of course, congruity in the fact that there was a shooting at Chedwin Park, and that these 3 men were together. That is Williams, Scott, and Fraser.
Yes.
And that they were pursued from Chedwin Park. We have no evidence so far of them pursuing anyone. We have that they were being pursued from Chedwin Park.
Right. And in his account, he said there was a brown Tida-looking car from which he heard explosion and that car sped away. You're saying it's the first time you're hearing that they were pursuing a car?
A brown Tida car. The first time we're hearing that, and there's no other indication of that. But of course, we are continuing to investigate, and we are going to look into all of the things that he has said in this interview.
Yes. So let's continue a little bit more with Corporal Kirk Fraser. Let's go back to the interview.
So we Jubilee intersection with the bypass there. Yeah, the amount of the gunfire that we were taking and the vehicle was up on us so much, we sped right across that road. It was, we were lucky at the time nothing was coming. We went through that narrow bridge and the vehicle came up on us again and a lot of gunfire. So when we actually reached the other intersection with that would be Brunswick Avenue and that road and Joe Lane to go to Hilton. Yeah. I was looking in front because I know that this intersection was coming up again, and I saw vehicles going up and down. And I said to Corporal William, I said, Willie, we're not making it, we're not gonna make it. See, and I see when we hit a vehicle, or when the vehicle come at the intersection and we intercept, both vehicles intercept. So we intercept the vehicle, meaning hit the vehicle, and our vehicle, I don't know, go one direction and the vehicle direction. And for that moment, I didn't know nothing for a while. I didn't know nothing for a while. Because the vehicle, when we reached there, the vehicle still, that vehicle pursued us right up. That same white Honda Civic pursued us right to where the accident happened. So I would say I passed out now after the impact when I said, Willie, we're not going to make it. When I was regaining consciousness, now I was looking around. I saw a black car, I think it was one of those Ford cars. I came up there and I saw this man come out where I recognized he was a police officer. Why I knew he was a police officer, he had on a leg holster. And I don't remember we had hailed up each other at the dance, at the front of the dance, because they were at the front of the dance. Yeah, I recognized him come out of that vehicle with some other men. And that vehicle that we intercept, that we collided in, I saw when he go over there and fire shot in that vehicle. in that it was I think it was a grey AD wagon. Yeah. And I heard when a man was saying, "Is my son, you're killing my son. Is my son that my son don't do anything, something to that effect." And then that man now left from over there and come over to where my vehicle was and shot Corporal Williams in I think it's his head or face. Somewhere in his upper body. I think it is his head. Come and shot Corporal Williams. By then when I saw it I was so terrified. I actually fell back down on the dashboard of the vehicle. And I was there. I don't know if I passed out back or what. I was here, even I didn't hear any sound coming from Corporal Scott. So I was just one.
Now, remember this is a version. We don't know whether there is any truth whatsoever attached to this version. This version is materially different from some of what we had been told before, because what we are now getting are serious allegations being made by Corporal Kirk Fraser, who was one of the 3 police in the vehicle that was being driven by his colleague, Corporal Rohan Williams. Rohan Williams is now dead. And you're hearing Corporal Kirk Fraser make some allegations as to the person he saw shooting Corporal Williams. He's also making some other allegations about the person he saw shooting Kevin Burrell, who is this young man who'd come from overseas and who was heading to a wake, from what we have learned. Bear in mind, this is a story with a lot of moving parts. This is just one version that we know nothing about, except we are receiving the account of this corporal who is on the run. Remember that he would have an interest to serve in all of these matters. So you listen and you process it with everything else. We'll go back to finishing the interview in just a moment, but Terrence Williams, those allegations about who it was who shot the 2 people, Kevin Burrell and Rohan Williams, are those similar to anything you have picked up in your investigation?
Well, this certainly is, as you have said, a version purportedly by Mr. Fraser. We know that Mr. Burrell was shot at that intersection, and Corporal Rohan Williams was the driver of the vehicle, and that he must have been shot somewhere around that intersection as well. We are awaiting post-mortem, and we are awaiting the result of the ballistic comparison,
yes,
which can give us some idea as to who was where when the firing took place. I want to appeal to Mr. Fraser that he needs to come in, because it does no good for him to be out there at this time. He can make arrangements through his lawyer. He can call us at Indicom and we will make arrangements. And we have a WhatsApp line 553 quadruple 5, that is 553 and then 4 5s. And he can call us on that WhatsApp line, and we will arrange for him to be, as much as we can, peacefully brought in, as long as he cooperates.
Right.
He's doing himself no good being out there at large for this long time.
Right. And of course, when you get a statement from him, you can see if it fits in
Indeed.
the fact pattern of everything else.
Because we have an open-minded investigation.
Yeah.
We are looking at all of the possibilities and investigating all of the possibilities.
Yeah.
So we would want to hear from him.
Yes.
We'd also want to encourage persons who are along that corridor, from Featherbed Lane to Job's Lane, people who are at that intersection, very busy intersection there of Brunswick Avenue and Jobs Lane, very busy
Yes.
at night, an area I know well from my childhood. So a lot of people should be around those areas. We also would want to hear from them as to what they saw on that late Saturday night into Sunday morning.
Don't you have footage of that area from cameras yet?
We have some. We want to get more because, you know, the angles aren't perfect for some.
Yes.
And you'll appreciate that most cameras are trained on business places, not on the street.
Yes.
So sometimes we are, you know, so we want to also encourage business owners in the area and along the corridor who have any information to call us because we want to broaden the investigation.
Right. Let me just turn our thoughts a little bit on this. The police who were calling initially the hero cop. Are you conducting any investigations around him and his actions?
Well, certainly we have interviewed him yesterday. I believe an interview started with the other colleague, because there were two officers who intervened at the traffic light.
Right.
So we are, I believe an interview started with that second officer yesterday. But from the very morning of the incident, we got initial accounts from those two officers.
Yes.
They followed it up with statements, and they have now been interviewed, and we're assessing their evidence and so on.
Right. And he, from what we understand, so he was off duty, but was he still carrying his service weapon?
I believe he had a private firearm.
Right.
And I believe he was on special duty.
What does that mean?
I think he was providing some amount of security. This is what is said. Security for the party as approved by his commanders. So, you know, sometimes police officers do that.
Yes.
And I think that is what, that's why he was there.
Right.
And the whole event was apparently wrapping up when this incident commenced.
Right. And tell us generally, because I know you are top prosecutor before you became Commissioner of Indicom, having worked in another Caribbean island, and I watched you prosecute the Kroll. Is it Kroll?
Yes.
Lead prosecutor in the Kroll murder trial. A lot of people would be thinking, what is the duty of, or what legal cover can an individual with a private firearm get if you're at a spot and you see a crime taking place, perhaps somebody else is being shot at and probably killed? Can you get any defense at all in law if you intervene in a circumstance like that?
Well, to make it more pointed, you know, once a police officer, you're always on duty, and if a police officer sees a crime being committed, he is duty bound, whether he's on the clock or not, to intervene to prevent the crime and to apprehend offenders. Indeed, you will know the famous Dython case, which said that if an officer fails to do that, he would be in breach of his duty as a police officer.
Right.
So that's why the law says you must watch by day and by night.
Yes.
The police officer always is on duty.
Not so for civilians who have a licensed firearm?
Not so for civilians who have a licensed firearm. For them, they would have no duty to intervene.
Yes.
But of course, if a police officer asks them to assist, they have a duty, if able-bodied, to assist the police.
Yes.
And so on.
So the duty, no. So if I see them, I'm a police, I'm off duty, I have either service firearm or some private firearm that I got from FLA, and I see somebody shoot a man in front of me, but the person runs off. Is my duty to run after this man?
Oh yes, if you're a police officer, it's your duty. Of course, you may want to secure the health of the person who is shot, and it is your duty to, if at all possible, for you to pursue the offender and apprehend him, using reasonable force and proportionate force to so do.
And if he's submitting, then I shouldn't want to discharge my firearm to maim him in any way at all, if he's submitting.
Oh, indeed.
To me.
If the person has submitted to you, then one should not act out of revenge,
yes,
or out of anger, and say, I'm going to shoot you because of what you just did. They must always, every round discharged by a police officer ought to be discharged with the hallmark of proportionality, legality, and necessity.
Right. I'm going to come to the paraphernalia that were found in the car in just a moment. This is the car which we are now learning through this version of events being told by the cop who is on the run, Corporal Kirk Fraser, that yes, it was an unmarked service vehicle. 1, 2, we're told by Fraser that it was being driven by his friend and colleague, they all being at Mobile Reserve together, Corporal Rohan Williams, and that Corporal Rohan Williams is now dead, he having been shot, according to Corporal Kirk Fraser, sometime after the cars collided at Brunswick Avenue and Job's Lane. Mr. Burrell as well, the father of Kevron, I've heard Mr. Burrell speaking, certainly to Cliff, and I would love, especially in light of this new information, to perhaps talk again with Mr. Burrell and to see if there are overlaps with this story that is being told by Corporal Kirk Fraser. But let's go back to that interview and hear how he continues with our own Kirk right here. Here's Corporal Kirk Fraser.
Behind you. Yeah, that's the one. So I thought Corporal Scott was also dead. Then I was so terrified and frightened and confused. I was saying, this man is a police officer like myself. And he come out of that black car. I didn't see that black car chasing us. It was a white Honda Civic. And say my own, as a police officer, would come now and do that. I was saying, no, something is wrong. Then I managed to pull the door of the car. That man, I think he went after he shoot Corporal Williams. After the fire shot in the car and shoot Corporal Williams. I didn't know Corporal Scott, I didn't hear he was moving like that. So I pulled the door and come out, I saw a police jeep come there, and I pull it and just pull the police jeep and say, "May I beg you to take me to the hospital, because they want to kill me, And when I looked, I realized that I saw a policeman was in the vehicle. He was like confused too. But I was saying, this police is the same police them. I was wondering, is the same police want to kill me? Oh. So the vehicle drive off. I think he drive off to the Hilton direction. I pull the door and roll out of the vehicle.
Also, while he was driving, or it got stopped?
No, it was driving, but I think it slowed down at a bad spot at the road. And I just pull it door and slide out of the vehicle.
So what the police did? The police did make an attempt to find you?
No, I was so terrified. I was so frightened. I didn't know. I didn't even look. I ran in the bush. She went in some water which kept me up to about my waist. I'm going in the bushes and crawl and so something. I think I don't remember if I had my phone. I made some contact and I get to come out of the area.
So the information is that's in the media now, certainly.
Massive development. Corporal Kirk Fraser, the cop who is on the run, has disclosed to our news center that he did not escape from hospital as we thought initially. He did not escape from the scene, but he said he was being carried in the service vehicle and he pulled the door of the car, the vehicle, while it was traveling, rolled out of the vehicle. He ran into the bushes, ended up in some water that got him to about waist height or whatever it is, completely terrified. And this is a very new development because initially, based on what we heard, he was taken to the hospital and perhaps under police guard. That aspect of it we were trying to find out and saying, how is it that he escaped? We're now being told by him, and I do not know that he would want to tell a lie on himself on this account, but he said he pulled the door of the police vehicle whilst it was still in motion and rolled out of the vehicle into the bushes. Terrence Williams?
Well, I must say, on the issue of Mr. Fraser's disappearance, we have heard many different versions from the police. We heard he was taken to hospital by a particular officer, then not by that officer, that he must have escaped at the hospital. This is another version that we're hearing. It is one of our terms of reference because the police force was duty bound to have secured him after the incident. And why it is that he was not secured is a question that we are also seeking. So this is just another version that we are hearing.
And by secure you mean what? Because if you're in the presence, after that incident, what he said is that the police in the Jeep that he saw looked confused as well because it seemed to have been a wild, wild west situation. So if a police says to me, never mind, it's a colleague police, get in the vehicle. Even if I'm not in physical restraint, am I not detained?
Indeed. I'll give you an example. There's a civilian who was in the car in which Mr. Kevron Burrell was in.
Yes.
That civilian was handcuffed. So this is a car that was just randomly hit, just the misfortune of bad timing of being on Brunswick Avenue.
Yes.
He was handcuffed.
By whom?
By the police.
Which set of police?
I'm not exactly sure at this time. He was handcuffed by the police. He was taken to hospital. He was taken to the police station. And he was questioned. So, and here you have the other car, which is the car that's being chased from which firing is taking place. And Mr. Fraser not properly secured.
Yeah.
Well, so far, that's what we know, but we are looking further into it.
Yes.
It is indeed one of our terms of reference.
But what has this so-called hero cop said about that? How could he have not kept his eye on the car with the 3 alleged rogue cops and ensure that the moment he came upon them, that if they had one set of handcuffs in their vehicle, 1 out of the 3 would have been handcuffed?
Oh, what we're hearing so far, it may be unfair and premature to blame the so-called hero cop. Because by the time you have people leaving the scene, they're leaving the scene with other police officers taking them away.
Yeah.
So I don't think, I think it might be premature to at this time to lay blame on anyone until we get the full version.
Right. No, there's some more to be played, but I want to hear you, Terrence Williams, on this unit, this mobile reserve unit. We're being told it's going to be disbanded. But even before it's being disbanded, your own thoughts on what it may have facilitated in all of this?
Well, I think Jamaicans may remember that for some time, Indicom had been making complaints about the mobile reserve, how it operated. And indeed, the poor operational management of the mobile reserve was a feature of the Tivoli Commission of Inquiry. And following that, we made at Indicom a recommendation that the mobile reserve, the gazetted officers, be removed and be replaced by JDF officers to bring appropriate leadership. We said in 2016, we said about the mobile reserve. Because what we made a report to Parliament, I think some 4 or 5 years ago, where we showed that there was an inordinate number of mobile reserve fatalities from their planned operations. And that once you had a military unit involved in the operation, the fatalities went towards 0. So once they're there, fatalities at the military, they went towards 0. So we're saying that there's some, but I don't want to focus alone on the mobile reserve because it's a bigger question as to how the JCF uses force and how the civilian, that is at the ministerial level, how and at the parliamentary level, at the governmental level, how we have managed the JCF and the military regarding the use of force against civilians. You know that the Constabulary Force Act says the minister can make rules for the force. And rules were made by Minister Errol Anderson. I don't know if you remember, so way back there. I know you're a young person. Errol Anderson was in the 80s. And those were the last rules made for the force.
Yes.
And if you read those rules, they speak volumes about uniform and accoutrements and leave. And they speak very briefly, like only 2 or 3 sentences about use of force and accountability. When what we need is rules by the minister which speak volumes about use of force, volumes about accountability, so that the minister can say, this is how we want the force to use force against
That's right.
Jamaicans.
Listen, I'm going to have to take you for 10 minutes over on Hotline. We're going to join the attorney for Corporal Kirk Fraser, who is on the run at the moment. But there's a lot more developing with this. Thank you for joining me on Hotline Interface, and come back with me on Hotline. Take care until next week. I'm Emily Shields.